friends, welcome back to the Avocado Toast Budget. If you're new here, my name is Alexa, and today we are going to break down everything that you need to know about credit scores. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that like button down below, and if you want to learn more about saving, paying off debt, investing, and how to finally feel more confident with your money, make sure that you hit that subscribe button and also push that notification bell. That way you get notified every single time that I upload. Let's get started. Okay, so before we jump into all of the tips and everything that you need to know, the first thing that I want to cover is the fact that, just as a disclaimer, know that everyone is different. Your credit score is going to be unique to you, so make sure that you do further research to decide what overall is going to be best for you, your finances, and your credit score. Also know that none of these are meant to be an overnight fix. You can't really just fix your credit score overnight. Some of these things take days, weeks, months, or even years to help build up your credit score over time. Now, depending on your situation, there are things that you can do that will improve your credit score drastically in a shorter amount of time, but it all just depends on your situation. We will talk about those things, but I just wanted to leave this disclaimer out there that this is not like a quick fix kind of thing, but this video will help you to understand your credit score and how you can improve it. Okay, so let's start with, what is a credit score? So a credit score is a number, usually between 300 and 850, that creditors use to assess how likely you are to pay back the debt that you owe. Now, your credit score is made up of 5 different factors: payment history, utilization, length of credit history, new credit, and your credit mix. So let's break down what each one of these mean. Your payment history is the most important because it takes up 35% of your credit score. Creditors want to know that you are going to make your payments consistently and on time. So in order to come up with a percentage, they take the number of on-time payments that you have made and divide that by the total monthly payments. But keep in mind, this is just the minimum payments. So this is not all the payments that you've done to pay your credit card off in full. This is just making sure that you have paid on time all of your minimum payments that are due. The next one is utilization, or the amount that you owe, and this takes up 30% of your credit score. This number looks at the percent of available credit that you are using. For example, if you have $10,000 available for you to spend on your credit card, that is your credit card limit, and you are at the end of your cycle spending $1,000 on that credit card, that is going to be a 10% utilization. Whereas if you only have $1,000 for your credit limit and you're spending that same $1,000 on your credit card, that is going to show up as 100% utilization. Now, your goal for this one is to keep it as low as possible, ideally under 10%. What is important to know about this is that it is a percentage. It's not about the specific number. So again, like in our example that I was just telling you about, that same $1,000 looks a lot different for this portion of your credit score depending on how much credit you have available. Creditors like to know this because if you're using 100% of your available credit, it might look like to them that you're strapped for cash and that you're trying to use all of the credit that you have available to you, which makes you someone who is riskier to loan to. But the nice thing about this is that it's very temporary. It changes every single time the end of your cycle comes around. The next thing to make up your credit score is the length of credit history, and this makes up 15% of your score. This one is pretty self-explanatory. It is just how long that you have had credit. So they are going to average all of the accounts that you have opened up throughout the years. Next is new credit, and this makes up 10% of your score. This comes down to how many hard inquiries have you had to open up new lines of credit. The reason that they take this into consideration is because if you are going and opening up many new lines of credits, this might be a red flag to them. This could indicate to the creditors that you're strapped for cash and that you are taking out more debt than you're going to be able to pay back. And the last part is credit mix, which makes up 10% of your overall credit score. Now, this might kind of sound weird, but basically what this boils down to is just how many different types of credit that you have. Creditors like to see that over time you've been able to manage a bunch of different types of credit and still paid it all back. But as we start to talk about this more, just know that again, it is only 10% of your score. So unless you want a perfect score, it might not be the thing for you to focus on the most. So now that we have talked about your credit score, what makes up your credit score, what it even is, how do you begin to build a credit score, and how do you increase your credit score if it's low right now? So one of the problems that you might be facing is that you have a lot of late payments on your credit score. If this is you, one of the most important things that you can do is from here on out trying to focus on making on-time payments every month if you can. If you're someone who used to have a history of having on-time payments and then you just recently messed up, or you just did not have the money to make one of your payments, go ahead and try giving your creditor a call, ask nicely, explain your situation. A lot of times they're willing to remove that late payment. Now, I know that this is easier said than done, especially if the issue is that you just don't have the money to be making these payments on time. But just keep in mind, know that the longer the payment is sitting there unpaid, the more it is going to drop your credit score. So if you can, try to find some money to throw at that payment, or try to give your creditor a call and see if you can negotiate with them, see if there's some sort of a payment plan that they can put you on to make smaller payments to meet your goal. But if you are able to, at least making that minimum payment on time is so important, especially since this is the part that takes up the largest chunk of your credit score. Okay, so you had a lot of late payments, so what happens if some of those late payments have now gone into collections? Generally, this happens after about 150 days of you not making payments on your debt. And what happens is that collections agencies buy your debt off of these creditors who just are basically writing it off as a loss and they don't want to have to deal with it anymore. And that's when you start to get all of these annoying calls and harassment from these collection agencies. But the thing to know is that these collection agencies buy your debt for pennies on the dollar. And if nothing else, make sure that no matter what you do with collections, you get everything in writing. Do not pay anything off. Do not give them any money until you have a deal that you are comfortable with in writing from them. And sometimes you can negotiate something called a pay to remove, where if you pay off the whole thing or a chunk of your debt, they will remove that from your credit score, which will increase your credit. But just know, if you have not negotiated a pay to remove, just simply paying off that credit that you owe to the creditor is not going to take it off of your credit score. That is why it is so important to make sure that you get everything in writing. And like I mentioned, these collections agencies buy your debt for pennies on the dollar. So if you are willing to give them more than they paid for it, a lot of times they are willing to take that deal. So if all you have is a portion of the debt that you owe, you don't have the whole thing, give them a call, still try to negotiate something that works for you. And also, when you're working with these collection agencies, make sure that you are verifying that everything is correct with this debt that you owe. If you can find any discrepancies in dates, in the information that they have, or if they can't even verify that you are the person who owes this debt, then you don't have to pay it and it will be removed. So make sure you're going through and verifying that all of the information that they have given you matches your records and is correct. And if you don't pay your debt that's in collections, or you pay it but you don't negotiate a pay to remove, know that it will stay on your credit score for 7 years and then it will drop off. What do you do if the issue with your credit score is that you've maxed out all of your credit cards? Now, obviously, the obvious solution here is to just pay off your credit cards, but if it were that easy, everyone would do it. So 2 options to look into are refinancing, or, as backwards as this sounds, opening up more lines of credit to decrease your credit utilization. Remember how we talked about earlier in the video how it's not the amount that you owe, but it's the percent that you are using from your total available credit? If you have maxed out all of your credit cards and you owe $5,000, if you open up a new line of credit for another $5,000, that's going to take your utilization from 100% to 50%. It might seem really backward and weird that opening up more lines of credit when you've already maxed out the credit cards that you have could increase your score, but it is an option to look into. Now, of course, this is only a good idea if you think that you can manage those new cards responsibly. It is absolutely not worth it to increase your credit score if you are just going to continue to go into credit card debt with those new lines of credit that you're taking out. So really sit down with yourself, decide if that is the way that you should go. Another option that you have available to you sometimes is refinancing your credit cards. Now, this is what I did when I was trying to get out of credit card debt, and it really helped my credit score. I had maxed out my credit card, which was really bringing my credit score down. But when I refinanced, I was able to get a personal loan through a bank, and I used that loan to pay off the debt that I owed to my credit card company. So suddenly, my credit utilization went from 100% to 0%. And since we know now that that takes up 30% of your credit score, that can make a big difference to your score over time. And if you're wondering which of these options is best for you, I definitely recommend checking out Credit Karma's Credit Simulator. You just put in all of your information and then it will tell you based on different decisions, like either paying off your credit card or opening up a new account or refinancing, what it is going to do to your credit score. Now, what do you do if your issue isn't that you have debt or you have anything in collections or you've maxed out your credit cards? It's that you don't have any credit. Like we talked about in the beginning of the video, length of credit history is something that creditors take into account to make up your credit score. Therefore, the number one thing that you can do for your credit score is to start now. But you might be thinking, okay, Lexa, but I don't have any credit, so how am I supposed to get a credit card to build credit if I don't have any credit? I highly recommend that you look into a secured credit card. Now, I talked about secured cards in one of my past videos, so I will link that up here. But a quick rundown, a secured credit card is basically where you put a refundable deposit onto the card that acts as your credit limit. You don't need credit to get approved for this, and there's no risk of you overspending on that card because you've already given the bank your money. But in exchange for this, they report your on-time payments to the credit bureaus, which helps boost your credit. Another option that might be available to you is to become a verified user for someone who you trust. Now, I really want to emphasize that it is extremely important that you trust this person financially, because becoming a verified user on their account means that if they start maxing out your credit cards, that is going to be reflected on your credit score. This isn't available through all companies. A lot of credit card companies are really cracking down on this, but definitely look into it and see if this is an option for you and something that would work well for you. A lot of times you do not have to have any credit already to become a verified user on someone's account. And the reality of it is, with your length of credit history, it is really just a waiting game. The best thing that you can really do is just start now to start building up your credit and lengthening that credit history. Now that we've broken down the basics of credit scores and how you can go about fixing certain issues that you might have with your credit score that is keeping it low or keeping it non-existent, why does any of this really matter? There is a big debate in personal finance about whether people should worry about their credit scores, and I'm going to tell you why I think that it's not the most important thing for you to worry about, but it is definitely something to keep in mind and to keep track of. The reality of it is, most people are going to need to finance something in their life, whether it's student loans, a small business loan, a car loan, or a mortgage. And your credit score can really make a difference on the amount of money that you are paying on these loans, especially over the years. But if you are sitting there saying, Lexa, I never want to take out any debt, I am done with the debt, I don't care about my credit score, so why does this matter? The way our system is set up, especially in the United States, there are reasons that your credit score matters completely outside of debt. The apartment that I'm sitting in right now, we needed a good credit score to be able to rent from here. And for the price and for what we get for this apartment, this is the best bang for our buck. So we would be paying more if we didn't have a good credit score. And all we do is rent this apartment every month. There are also deals that you can get on your car insurance based on your credit score. And even depending on what field you're in, sometimes jobs look at your credit score. Now, do I think that most of this is right? No. But is this the reality that we are living in, especially in the United States? Yeah. So while it is not a reflection of your worthiness as a person, your credit score does matter in a lot of situations. And that's why I think it's so important to talk about and for you to know what concrete steps you can take to start improving your credit score. Okay, friends, that is it for today. Don't forget, before you log off, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button. It really helps boost this video to the top of the YouTube algorithm and helps more people find this content. I will see you guys next time. Bye.